What's going on, people? Mark from Double Clutch Auto Reviews here. Thank you again for tuning in for another review video. Today, I'm here with the 2022 Toyota Corolla SE Apex Edition. That's right, like an apex of a corner. This is essentially Toyota's TRD version of the Corolla. This Corolla Apex Edition was lent to me for the morning by Toyota of Dartmouth, located here at 100 Old Faunce Corner Road in North Dartmouth, Massachusetts. They have tons of great new Toyota models in stock. Check them out. I'll put their contact information and their links in the description below. The Apex Edition is a trim option that Toyota has made for the 12th generation of the Corolla. Some neat fun facts about the Corolla is that the first generation was first debuted in 1966, and since then, Toyota has made over 46 million examples of the Corolla. This particular Corolla is also designed, engineered, and assembled in the USA, which I think is great. Starting off with the exterior, the 2022 Apex Edition has arguably one of the sharpest and most aggressive looking exteriors on a Corolla yet. There's quite a fair amount of upgraded sporty styling cues. This includes the much angrier looking front fascia with the blacked out grille and the additional lower front splitter. There are also these sexy looking side skirts, and coming around to the back we have a sharp and defined rear diffuser. This bronze trim going around the edges of all the aero bits is also done quite well. This kind of dynamic styling element of the triple color combination between the gray, the black, and the bronze is right up my alley. I'm a big fan. Now moving on to the wheels. These are the 18-inch flow-formed glossy black aluminum wheels. These are 3 pounds lighter than the normal Corolla wheels, which reduces rotating mass and unsprung weight. They are also stronger and help with brake cooling compared to the standard cast wheel. With the Apex Edition, you also get all of the blacked out trim pieces, the black mirror caps, blacked out badging, and the black roof. It's safe to say that the Apex Edition demands your attention much more than any other Corolla has before. The Apex Edition Corolla comes in 3 color choices: the cement gray, which we have here, super white, and black sand pearl. Personally, the cement gray being my favorite. The SE trim comes with a gray cloth interior, and the XSE trim comes with a black cloth interior. It also has high-grade LED lighting all around the car, headlights, taillights, and daytime running lights. As far as the exterior looks of the Apex Edition goes, I think Toyota nailed it. They could have easily overstyled this car, as we all know many automakers end up doing. Now, this particular Apex Edition Corolla is the SE trim, so it comes with the color-matched spoiler. However, if you get the XSE trim, you get the black Apex style spoiler. Or you can pay $375 extra on top of an SE trim if you want to get that added on. In my humble opinion, I actually prefer this ducktail style spoiler instead. The Apex spoiler is where this car gets a little bit too overstyled for me. Sometimes less can be more, even on the sportier trim models of certain cars. Coming under the hood of the 2022 Corolla Apex Edition, here we have the 2-liter naturally aspirated dual overhead camshaft 16-valve inline 4-cylinder with variable valve timing, making 169 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. And this car is mated to the automatic dynamic shift CVT transmission and front-wheel drive. Out of the 6,000 Corolla Apex Editions being made, only 120 of them are going to have a 6-speed manual, unfortunately. The CVT version of the SE Apex Edition has a curb weight of 3,110 pounds. The manual gearbox SE Trim Apex Edition shaves off 55 pounds compared to its CVT brother, and an additional 95 pounds compared to the only CVT option available XSE Trim, weighing in just over 3,200 pounds. Now, I completely understand that unfortunately these days the market reflects that less than 3% of new car buyers prefer rowing their own gears. However, I honestly think that Toyota did the Apex Edition a disservice by only offering 120 of them with a manual transmission. They also don't give buyers the opportunity to get an upgraded engine option over the base model Corolla. Despite all of that, the Apex Edition does come with a lot of chassis and suspension upgrades to stiffen this car up over the base model Corolla. These upgrades include thicker solid sway bars, increased sway bar and coil spring rates, a lowered ride height by 0.6 inches, and specially tuned shocks to provide increased damping or shock absorption. With all of these adjustments combined, they provide 47% more body rigidity in the front and 33% more in the rear. Toyota also boasts the Apex Edition's sport-tuned catback exhaust. And if you want more grip on dry tarmac, you can get summer tires on this car at no additional cost. What I find interesting about the Corolla Apex Edition, it essentially has most of the modifications that a young car enthusiast might do to their first car. That does come at a slight premium, of course. However, when you do the math, it's only around $2,500 to $3,000 more than a non-Apex Corolla of the same stature. Now think about buying all of these parts in the aftermarket and then installing them on your Corolla. This includes the wheels, the solid sway bars, the lowering springs, all of the aero bits, the catback exhaust. $2,500 to $3,000 actually sounds like a pretty sweet deal when you put it that way. And that's not even considering doing it yourself and all the time invested in doing that, or paying a shop to do it for you. If someone's thinking about doing all these modifications to their Corolla already once they buy it, they might consider upgrading to the Apex Edition and have all of it taken care of for them. All right, now climbing into the interior of the 2022 Corolla Apex Edition, you'll notice that not much has changed compared to its non-Apex counterparts. The first upgrade you do notice is these slightly more bolstered, sporty front seats. You'll also notice that there is bronze-colored stitching all around the leather-wrapped steering wheel, the shift boot, and the center console. Bringing a little bit of the exterior into the interior, I like that a lot. Considering the size of this car, the Corolla always has had and still has plenty of passenger room for 4 people. 5 if you don't mind squishing. And there's also 13.1 feet of cargo room in the boot. The Apex Edition only comes in a sedan version though. Sorry hot hatch guys and gals, there is no Apex hatch available. In the center stack we have an 8-inch touchscreen compatible with Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and Sirius XM. And that's hooked up to a 6-speaker standard sound system. However, there is an upgradable 9-speaker JBL system with a subwoofer that you can get in other Corolla models, but not an Apex version. Toyota did not skip out on giving the Apex all of the safety features that the other Corollas have. This includes auto emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keep assist, lane departure warning, and radar cruise control, and 10 total airbags in this little guy. That's pretty impressive. That gives it a 5-star safety rating and makes it a top safety pick from the IIHS. We also have heated mirrors with integrated turn signals. And besides that, it's relatively simple and basic, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not overdone at all, it's not distracting, but still seems very well built. For what you'd expect out of a Toyota Corolla, I think they hit the nail on the head. Ergonomically set up, durable, and reliable is what a Corolla customer is looking for. Now moving down to the center console, we have the CVT transmission. What's good about this particular CVT though is it actually has a true first gear. So off the line you do get that hard acceleration. However, the rest of the gears are simulated through the CVT. We also have 2 USB ports up front. One right here next to the glove compartment and one in the center console next to the 12-volt outlet. However, there are no USB ports or 12-volt outlets for rear seat passengers, which is kind of a bummer. I'm not a particular fan though of this electronic parking brake right here. I would prefer a traditional manual handbrake. However, I do know that making 2 center consoles for this car would be very costly for Toyota. And since only 2% of these bad Larrys are going to have a 6-speed manual transmission, it would make sense for Toyota to cater to the CVT transmission market and just put in an electronic parking brake. A one-size-fits-most application in favor of the latter. All right, now getting out on the road in the 2022 Corolla Apex. Overall, it's pretty similar to your standard Corolla. The ride is a little bit rougher. You definitely notice that right off the bat. However, I heard a lot of journalists saying that it was punishing. In my opinion, I don't really think it's that bad. Granted, that's coming from me, and one of my cars is a 1990 NA Miata, which is definitely worse than this. But otherwise, I really don't find it too bad. Another thing I just noticed when stepping out of the car is that if you're not careful with putting your foot way out past the side skirts, you actually can clip them if you're not careful, so just something to note. You definitely don't want to damage your side skirts by stepping out and kicking them by accident. Now let's test the turning radius. Not bad. Yeah, I think I'll make that. I sure hope I do anyway, or else I have a lot of explaining to do. And now I couldn't find a published 0 to 60 time without finding a lot of discrepancies between the exact times. So I brought my own stopwatch, and we're going to see what the 0 to 60 is for ourselves. I'm just going to put it in sport mode and in drive. I'm not going to put it in manual and use the paddles just to take any way of that variable with my shifting input. All right, ready, and go. .5 seconds. Oof. The engine noise upon acceleration definitely leaves a little bit to be desired. It's pretty rev happy, but, you know, sounds okay. Man, the handling's great though. Wow. I'm tossing around some corners on a back road right now, and this thing is planted. I'm actually quite impressed. Using the paddle shifters. It wants to shift before it redlines. I will say the CVT does a pretty good job of simulating the gears though. Coming in hot. Oh yeah. Handling's great, it really is. That's my biggest gripe with these CVTs though, in these more budget-friendly cars. The transmission shifts before you actually want it to. If it thinks you're gonna rev it out too much, it just shifts. I wish it would just hold the RPMs in the power band, but you know what, that's just the way these cars are these days. It's not a Lamborghini, and I'm not expecting it to be for sure. Unfortunately, the acceleration is a little bit underwhelming, I'm not gonna lie. However, once you get it going, it kind of reminds me of a Miata. It takes a lot to get in that power band, but once you do and you're tossing it into a corner, it really shines. A lot of people are saying that this would be a great entry-level autocross car, and I could totally agree with them on that. It's also a very good first car for a young, aspiring car enthusiast. Definitely does not have enough power to bite you. The traction control button also doesn't even seem to fully turn it off. Even when I hold it down and push it, it still seems to not want to trip the tires. I will say I'm going 65 right now, 70, and the wind noise insulation is very good. Visibility is great. I could see all around the car, no problem. Very easy to park. Of course, it's a small Corolla, but still worthy to note that the visibility is great. Some small cars still don't have great visibility. In regards to the steering feel, you can tell that it's electronically assisted, of course. I mean, obviously it's a 2022 Corolla, but it is nicely weighted. There's just a little bit of an on-center dead spot that makes it a little bit numb, but once you get it into the corner and you're pushing it, it locks up quite nicely, and you can tell where the car wants to go, where the wheels are pointing. Overall, you can tell this thing handles very well. Toyota focused on that with the Apex Edition, and they nailed it. Let's see, trip the tires. Here we go. A little bit. Alright, now we're going to tone it down for a sec. I'm going to put it in normal mode or eco mode. I do really wish Toyota offered an upgradable engine option. That would have definitely changed the game for this Apex. The 6-speed manual transmission also, I'm sure, would have made a huge difference for me as well, personally. Everything I've heard about the manual gearboxes, people love it. They say it's excellent, especially for what it is. And I'm pretty sure that if you decide to go with the CVT, you're gonna lose a little bit of spryness and control as far as the acceleration and gear changing goes. And now talking price. The starting MSRP for the 2022 Corolla Apex Edition is just over $25,000. $25,220 to be exact. And ironically, the manual transmission version is more expensive, starting at $25,610. Gone are the days where the manual transmission option, which was considered the standard trim, is actually going to be more expensive than the CVT or automatic versions. Go figure. And the XSE trim of the Apex Edition starts at $28,360. For $3,140 more, you get blind spot detection with rear cross traffic alert, a power sunroof, a 7-inch digital and configurable gauge cluster display, which looks really nice, versus the more traditional and basic analog gauge cluster with the 4.2-inch screen right here for all your information. You also, of course, get the Apex spoiler, as I said before, and heated front seats. I really do wish that I could take this car on a little slalom course or a track right now. That would actually be a lot of fun. Probably more fun than a lot of people would expect it to be. Unfortunately, I don't have more time to really get to know this car and throw it around some more curves, but man, it is fun. And considering all these upgrades aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg over the base price of a normal Corolla, it actually could be considered not a bad deal. Now, the Apex Edition Corollas with the CVT are rated for 30 miles per gallon in the city, 38 on the highway, and 33 average overall. Unfortunately, the manual transmissions get worse gas mileage than the automatics. They are rated for 28 in the city, 35 on the highway, and 31 average overall. In my humble opinion, I'd always sacrifice a few MPGs for more fun. I'm expecting that these little guys will hold their value relatively well. One, because they are a Toyota Corolla after all. They always hold their value. Second, this is a limited edition model, and there's only 6,000 of them being made, and only 120 of them manual. I expect that the 6-speed manual versions will hold their value even better in the long run. This is also given the fact that this car is going to hold up to Toyota's reputation of having bulletproof reliability with these cars for many years to come. I think what I was expecting out of this car, though, was going to give me kind of a taste of what the GR Yaris was. It's so sad because North America isn't getting the GR Yaris, plain and simple. I don't know why Toyota decided to deprive the US of such a great car. So that's why I was expecting this Apex Edition to kind of fill that void. Hopefully in a few years to come, maybe they'll come out with a GR Corolla, who knows? There better be plenty in stick though, I swear. And it also doesn't punish you for being on a budget. this interior is actually quite nice, and besides the stiffer ride quality, it overall rides really well. Yes, there are some plastics here and there, of course, but it has nothing more than you need, and for what you're expecting out of this kind of a car, it does a job very well. As you can see, we're going over some bumps right now, and this is where the ride quality comes into play. It is definitely harsher than a normal Corolla, but that's to be expected, of course. But if this doesn't bother you that much, then this is totally a livable car to deal with on a daily basis. In conclusion, I do like what Toyota has done with this car. They did most of the modifications that a young, aspiring, entry-level car enthusiast might do, but from the factory. It's small, it's light, it's fun to throw around in corners, and it has plenty of passenger room to haul around all your friends. It's good on gas mileage, and it's known to be one of the most reliable cars you can get, so you can't beat that. This car is practical and affordable enough to be a great daily driver, yet it just has a little bit of fun factor dazzled in there just to give you a little bit more pizzazz in your driving experience. I just wish more were manual. I can't get over it. I just wish more were manual. This car in a manual, I feel like, would be 10 times more fun. If you don't know how to drive a stick, that's perfectly fine, but if you can or you aspire to one day, do your best to get that manual if you want this car. Absolutely. Well, everyone, that is my take on the 2022 Toyota Corolla SE Apex Edition. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Be sure to check out Toyota Dartmouth. They have this car for sale as well as tons of other great new Toyotas in stock. They have super friendly staff and they've been very helpful with me in regards to this video from the very beginning. I will put all of their contact information, their phone numbers, and the links to their websites in the description below. Take care, everyone. Stay safe out there, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. It's not overdone. It's not distracting. I'm filming a car review. Yeah, trying anyway. Cop right next to me. I don't want to do anything. Just don't look at him. Don't look at him. Maybe they won't notice I have all these cameras going and electronic devices out distracting me. This light will eventually turn green. Bingo. On our way now.